Good morning. Good morning. How you doing? Welcome to Deconstructing Christianity. I am your host, Coach Renz, and today I will be guiding you through the process of us talking about the multiple different gods that are in the Bible itself. So we wait about 5 minutes to let people get on. We'll clear some announcements and things of that nature before we get there. I do look forward to people meeting me here in San Antonio, October 31st through November 2nd. There's a link in the description that will give you access to be able to get the discounted hotel rates at the Drury Plaza, where some of our events are going to be happening, as well as where you get a free breakfast, free snacks, and free supper. So please go ahead and do that. Sign up. I want to thank everybody who follows the channel, everybody who's a member, everybody who's on YouTube, a subscription holder on Facebook, and people who support the channel that way on Cash App. Thank you very, very much. I look forward to our conversation today. So we just, like I said, we're going to get about 5 minutes. That gives me enough time to get my cigar ready as we get ready to proceed. It's talking about the different gods. If you missed any of our other videos, and I thank everybody for sharing the videos. Thank you for sharing the videos. Helping the channel to grow, whether we're on Facebook or YouTube. Thank you for all your shares. It allows the channel to grow. It allows us to build our tribe so that we can vibe with more people just like us, who are free-thinking, open-minded, deconstructing from Christianity. Grand Rising VB2 that is. If you're new to the channel, usually I do other videos. We go live every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. Grand Rising Dwayne. And usually I will post other videos. Yesterday, you guys did not get an allotment of videos because right after I finished, I had to go to a business meeting and I was there. It lasted from 3 o'clock till about 9:30. I didn't expect it to last that long, but it was very productive. Very productive. I think I want this on that side. Oh, I gotta make a change in my office. Put my hand out to that side more than the other side, so it doesn't make sense for my ashtray to be on the other side. This makes more sense. It's more logical. Anyway, now I feel better. All is right with the world. All right, what's up, Donald? How you doing? James, how are you? I can't call you by the middle part of it, so I'm just call you TNT if that's all right with you. Titus, TNT. I need that. I can go that far. So today's conversation. Now I hope you guys. I told you guys this. Now you know it's rare that I tell you what we're going to talk about the day before. So yesterday during our conversation about esoteric Christian, and how there is really no such thing. Not so much there's no such thing, that it is not a real thing. It's just people who want to find something different, something they want to feel special. So they got to feel like there's something deeper, but they still want to hold on to that religion. You know, so you got your esoteric Christian. That was our conversation yesterday on the live, and we discussed that in volume. So today, and I told you guys today, we're going to talk about the different gods that are represented in the Bible for people who who fashion themselves as monotheistic, when in truth it's not monotheistic, it's polytheistic, and I mean henotheistic, meaning that they believed in other gods' existence. So that's our conversation today. So what the goal here today is, as we are moving in our deconstructing phase, as we are moving in different phases of our deconstruction, is to understand that the Bible doesn't speak of a people who were writing this that only believe that one God existed. That is a later development, and what the scribes and the people in charge tried to do is change the ideas of what the Bible is trying to say. They give it doctrine over the actual wording that it uses to try to justify and give it univocality, when we know the Bible doesn't have univocality. There is no continuous theme throughout this Bible that suggests that they only believed in one God, right? It's a demonstration that they believe these other gods existed. And although there are many, there's only a few that we can focus on to demonstrate that they literally believe that these other gods existed. Not just in the fact that people believe it. Because if you think about it, when the Bible speaks of people just worshiping another God, like a lot of people like to jump on one of the commandments, I believe it's the first one that says that thou shalt have no other gods before me. Well, who are the other gods? Okay, that means that other people might have been worshiping gods that don't exist, true, but that doesn't make that God real. But in the same way, the God of the Bible is worship. That doesn't make that God real. But that's just worship. Anybody can worship anything. I can worship this cigar, I can worship this cigar. I can create a being that I worship. Worship doesn't make a being real. So we're going to look more at the other gods of the Bible that had action, that played some type of role of where because they wrote these stories and they believe these stories to be literal, we focus on the ones that had literal action or is supposedly having literal action, right? Because one of the reasons why people believe in this book is because this guy was active back in the day. He ain't been active for 2,000 years, but back in the day he was active. So first, and I also want to clarify one other thing. Now, this one is going to be both other gods and no other gods, and that is the term Elohim. So in the book of Genesis, you have Genesis 1 and you have Genesis 2, first chapter and second chapter. The problem with Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 is that the chapters weren't written at chapter 1 first and then chapter 2. It was actually written chapter 2 and then chapter 1. The books weren't written by the same groups of people. You had different groups of people who wrote it over different time frames between chapter 1 and chapter 2. To put it in a sense, it's like they wrote chapter 2, everybody was okay with chapter 2, and then after a while, they said, nah, we need a more broader story, so they wrote chapter 1. Now, the term that is used in chapter 2, when anytime it's talking about Elohim being with Adam and walking around the garden with some money, like he got some walk around money. That's Elohim, which is plural. It's a pluralized word, but it's used in the singular. In chapter 2, the Elohim is one God, not multiple gods. The difference that you have to look at is the word choice around it. So, like, if someone says, was Hurricane on the live today? Now, I could easily say, yeah, he was on the live. Or, yeah, she was on the live. I look at the picture. Yeah, he was on the live. But I could also say, yeah, they were on the live. They is plural. But I can use they in a singular form. We is plural. But I can use we in a single form. One of my favorite usage of that is because I love Stars, the streaming channel Stars, Spartacus, and when Crixus gets ready to fight he announces to the crowd, you know, shall we begin? But he is only talking about himself. So we can be used singular. It's not normal, but it can. Us can be used singularly, but we know most oftentimes it's not. And that's where the debate comes. Because in chapter 1, when the Elohim says, let us make man, because us can technically be used in a singular in American English, it can. In Proto-Hebrew, not so much. Us is not singular in Proto-Hebrew. So when he says, let us make man in our image, and that's why the us is also not singular, because let us make man in our image is not used in the singular as well. So, and then we also know the story is pulled from the Sumerian Akkadian story of Enki, Enlil, Anu, and Ninharsag creating man in the Sumerian story. And these people were Canaanites, and these people conquered the Canaanites, and the Canaanites, out of the Canaanites comes the Israelites. So there is the multiple gods in Genesis chapter 1, just with Elohim, because El is the masculine for male god, Eloah is the female god, and Elohim is gods and goddesses. So Genesis chapter 1 right off the bat demonstrates in an action way that they originally believed in multiple gods. Now, of course, as you move through history, Hezekiah, he tries to change this. Josiah really changes a lot of this. And then after the Babylonian captivity, they really edit the shit out of the Bible to try to make it, give it one voice. So we also have to look at this through archaeological evidence as well, and other information that comes from other societies in this Mediterranean area, in order to truly get a fix on it. Because we know that history of the writings of anything can be set up as propaganda. But then we're just talking about their God. Now, the fact that Yahweh is introduced into as a name of this God and as a part of this God, and it fluctuates between Yahweh and El, the question then is, because we know historically that these people came out of the Canaanites, and in the Canaanite pantheon, you had El. El was the chief god. El had a wife. The wife's name was Asherah. So even if we said, well, even though that El and Yahweh eventually merges and become one God, they used to worship the wife of El as Asherah. And it wasn't until Josiah that they completely got in the 700, Josiah 600s, in the 600s BCE, that they completely got rid of Asherah. And yes, and the Israelites worship the Queen of Heaven in Jeremiah, and that would be, I think that's Elnana or Astarte. Well, Elnana and Astarte is the same people. So we know they worshiped other gods. Plenty of them that we can talk about as far as worshiping. But first, I want to talk about the ones that definitely they committed action. They were action heroes in this story to demonstrate that these people believe that these gods actually existed, as far as these people are concerned, as far as the Bible is saying. So now we know that El and Yahweh were merged together, and they had a wife named Asherah. Now we have proof that they worshiped Asherah prior to being conquered and decimated by the Assyrians in the 8th century. as I showed you guys that when we were, this is like weeks ago, a couple weeks ago, when we was talking about the worship of Asherah and the fact that one of the ancient Israelite temples, that they have the Asherah pillar for the worshiping of Asherah. And this was something that was common to them, something that they did to the point where Josiah makes a big deal about it, where he gets rid of the worshiping of Asherah. So we know that they worship the goddess Asherah because they have monuments to her, and they believe that she is the mother goddess of originally of Yahweh and Baal, and then she becomes Yahweh's wife, and they have Baal and Mot. Now they put forth action to the worship of this one, then we have, but so now that we got through that part, what I really want to get to is some of the other gods that they worship. So I just wanted to show how their God in itself is a polytheistic amalgamation. But when it comes to, as they tell their stories in this Bible, one of the things that we see that is very evident is that they believe that these other gods existed and had power, that they had achievements. Do you recognize that the Bible alludes to the fact that the Egyptian gods, the Egyptian pantheon, actually existed? That's what story lets you know that they believe that the Egyptian pantheon, that should be an easy answer. What story makes you realize, and they are literally admitting, that the Egyptian pantheon exists? That Ra and Asherah, Set, Heru, Tahuti, that they all exist. Jeb and Nut, Shu. In order for one of their biggest stories to happen, the Egyptian gods must exist. Otherwise, the story doesn't happen. It's one of those things like when my wife and I are watching a movie and we see something that happens that's stupid. And it's like, well, why didn't they just do X, Y, and Z instead of doing what they did in the movie? So the movie can happen. Because the simple solution was right there, but you got to go do something like else over here. But you go do that so that the movie can happen, right? The story of the Exodus demonstrates that the Egyptian pantheon must exist in the Bible, that they believed, and not only did they believe, but they had action-packed hero stuff going on. If you recall the story, Moses said when he was talking to the burning bush, it might have been some good weed, but he was talking to the burning bush. And the burning bush said, hey, when you go there and tell them, let my people go. And he was like, how the Jewish people gonna believe that it's me? Put your hand in your pocket, bam, bring it out. There's some leprosy. And he's like, put your hand back in your pocket, bring it out, bam, it's healed. Oh, so I got a hand job trick. Yeah, I need a little more. So he told him, throw down the staff. Boom, throw down the staff, turn into a snake. Power. Magic. Right? That's magic, right? We can all agree that is magic. Right? So then he goes to Egypt. A little problematic though, but he goes to Egypt. He goes, he sees the Hebrew people, bam, he do the hand job trick with the leprosy, magic. So this guy demonstrating magic is a way to show that a God exists. So then they go to Pharaoh. They go to Pharaoh. He said, let my people go. We just want to go out into the wilderness. First he lied, but that's for the Exodus story. That's for the Exodus story. I'm just going to use the generic. He let my people go. He said, let my people go. And Pharaoh was like, nah. Aaron, not Moses, Aaron throws down his staff. Bam. It's turned into a snake. Pharaoh look at his two dudes, hit them with it. Pop, pop. They throw down they staff. Bam. Turn into a snake. Egyptians, magic. So the same magic that the God of Israel got, that demonstrates that of his existence, bam, the Egyptians throw down their staff, turns into snakes. They got snakes just like him. The Egyptian pantheon, as far as the Bible is concerned, are real gods. Now the way that they try to do it with the univocality that does not exist, the way that more modern people try to look at it, and they say, oh, see, the devil gave the Egyptians the power. Oh, demons who were once angels or who fell away from God, they tricked and gave the Egyptians some power. There ain't nothing in the Bible. There ain't nothing in history that would demonstrate that. As far as when these people wrote it, they were writing, believing that these other gods existed. When they wrote the Exodus story, they were writing saying that, yeah, the Egyptians used their gods, the power from their gods, but Aaron's snake ate the other two snakes, because when they ate the two, and that's God's proof that he was more powerful than the Egyptian gods. And that's how it actually should be taught, that they not no demons, not no the devil and all that bullshit, because when they wrote this, they didn't actually believe in the devil. They didn't believe that a devil existed when these writings were being written. When the story of Exodus was being written, they didn't believe in a devil. There was no devil in their thought process. To them, they were writing this story, the Egyptian gods existed. And so when they wrote it, they were trying to write it in a way to say that, you see how powerful Yahweh, Elohim, El is? He was one snake and he defeated two snakes. And the Egyptian God was not strong enough. The whole story of the Exodus is as if these gods are having a pissing contest. Next thing that happens, put his staff in the Nile River. All the waters of Egypt turn to blood. Now there's a problem with the statement. It says that all the waters in Egypt, even in the pots and everything, turn to blood. But then it says Pharaoh, so Yahweh, blood magic, hit it up. I always wondered, where did Pharaoh's magicians get some water and they turned that into blood too? I mean, so the Egyptian gods, Isis said, ha, turn that pot of water into blood just so that you can see I got power too. I got power. Now, like I said, I don't know where they get that water from. And then I don't know what kind of bullshit that is. There's a statement in there that says that, and they dug along the Nile River and they were able to get some water. Earth don't filter out blood and separate blood and water. So God put red dye, put red dye number 7 in that water. But the water turned to blood. That is one reason, just as a little tangent here real quick. Anytime these people, you see the little folks talking about, oh, look at the water, it's red, the water is red. No, if it's the plagues, if it's supposed to be the end time, it turns to blood, not red, it turns to blood. So unless it's turning to blood, they on some BS. But this demonstrates, just in those two actions, it demonstrates that Because I think the rest of the time, the pharaohs, magicians, they like, oh hell, we ain't got nothing on that. But and that's the point of that story, is to show that their God is stronger than the other God. The biblical text demonstrates some knowledge of Egyptian religion. References to Egypt deities can be found in several personal names. Yeah. And this is a true thing. When anytime you claim that you're getting help from your God, it's always demons. Demons can do miracles. Demons can perform these things, and that's what they do to trick you, to stay into your thing. And the devil knew that Jesus was going to come one day, so he impersonated all these other beings so that people would already not believe in him. And see, just I was about to say this, or say something similar to this. I could apply some logic to Christians, to Christian God, that he is a magical demon who does sorcery and does miracles. Because if I was of the Hindu religion, I could say that, well, actually, since our religion was around first before his, he's really, a runaway God from the Hindu religion that's impersonating somebody else because he didn't like being under Brahman. So that he's a demonic, that he's a demon. He fought against Krishna. I ain't got that yet, Hands of Omega. Hold on. Wait a minute, is that one next? Well, shit, I'm gonna go ahead and do this one next, since Hands of Omega just putting all the information out there. So we're talking about in parts of the Bible when there's action-packed, action hero shit going on. Hands of Omega kind of jumped ahead of me. I was gonna talk about a different God first, but he's gonna jump up ahead of me, because that's, yeah. Let's see. Yeah. Fine. So, what Hands of Omega is talking about? My favorite biblical other god is the Prince of Persia in Daniel 10, who fights against the Lord and stands still for a month before Michael has to step in and take over. Right, he's absolutely right. And I wasn't going to ignore the comment. Now, Isaac, hold on, man. Y'all, look, I'm about tired of y'all. Y'all keep jumping ahead on some stories that I want to get to. All right, that I'm gonna get to it. Can y'all let me see if I get to some of the other guys first that got action hero stuff? Damn. So anyway, Prince of Persia. So many, I don't know if you guys have ever read the story or if you know the story, but basically what you have is that you have this, Daniel was waiting on a message from the angel Gabriel. Gabriel was literally coming to Daniel to tell him some stuff. And Daniel is waiting. I'm waiting. And he waits for over a month. And then Gabriel finally shows up. And he's sitting there and he's like, yo, dog, where you been? I was waiting on you. And he's like, look. Then Gabriel's like, look, man, let me tell you. Man, I was trying to get to you, man, but I had to go through Persia, right? Because you in Babylon, I had to go through Persia, dog. The Prince of Persia, them jokers who worship, Shamash and all them, he was laying the smacketh down on my candy ass. For a whole month, I was catching rain of fire. He was Mike Tyson in his prime on my ass. But then I had to WWE him, man. I did the tag team, bam, Triple H came down, in the form of Michael, and told him to DX him. I go back to the DX Attitude Era. So in this story, the angel Gabriel is delayed from giving a message to Daniel because this prince of Persia, who most scholars think is an angelic being in the canon of Shamash, was whooping Gabriel's ass until Michael, who's the archangel, supposed to be the fighter of the bunch, had to come in like a big brother and save the day. Put the pedigree on him. This is another demonstration that they believe that these other gods existed in live action form. Not just, oh, some people over there are believing in this God and they're worshiping this God and they got statues of this God, but they believe this God actually existed. And to continue with the ideas of Shamash, because you didn't put this part down, hands of Omega, you didn't put this part down. And continue with the ideas of Shamash, I forget exactly where it's at, but the Egyptians, I mean not the Egyptians, they are they are having a battle against these Moabites. And the Moabites, they look to Shamash, and you know how in this Bible they show this God is action-packed, right? He's action-packed God. He keep Moses' arms up, they win the battle. You know, Joshua say, "I need more daytime to win this battle. Keep the lights. He kept the light on for them like Motel 6. You know, they kept it going. You know, Yahweh is action-packed, and these guys are involved in their battles. Well, they're having a battle against the Moabite people, and it's going back and forth. Then all of a sudden, the king of the Moabite people, he sacrificed his son to Shamash. And after he sacrificed his son to Shamash, Shamash is like, bet. And then they whoop the Israelites' ass. Whooped his ass, whooped the Israelite butt. Because they've demonstrated that you do the right thing by your God, then you win the battles. So since Shamash did that, boom, he took the sacrifice. And you know, these guys love them a good little sacrifice. The tasty meats. They like the tasty meats, you know. So, and some human flesh. It's always tasty to them. It's always tasty to them. That's why they used to do the child sacrifice, which is debatable, but the child sacrifice is called the Moloch. There is no Moloch. There's more than likely no Moloch. It's most likely where it says Moloch, and people think that it is a term that they are worshiping. Child sacrifice to Moloch is a scribal error, most likely, and they meant the god Milcom. But the Moloch is the child sacrifice. But they like them tasty, the tasty meats. So when Shamash when they gave Shamash some tasty meats, you know, he let them win the battle. I heard Shamash. Well, even the Chemosh is Shamash. It's not Chemosh, it's Shamash. So, TNT said let them cook. They're cooking up some people. So you got the whole situation where the God was action-packed. Not only did he send his prince, his main angel to whoop Gabriel's butt, and it took a tag team, a jump. They had to jump him in order for them to win. But then in another battle, when they get a little sacrifice, Shamash got some of them savory meats. He allowed them to win the battle. These are actionary things that the Bible is promoting to demonstrate that they believed in these other gods. They were henotheistic, not monotheistic, and these other gods existed as far as they are concerned in this Bible. Now, Isaac jumped ahead of me as well. Another one of my favorite stories, and I did a video on this like 2 days ago, but it demonstrates that they believe that these other gods exist. And that is one of the most common gods that most people have heard about, and that is Baal. Some people call him Baal, some people call him Baal. Whichever one, we're talking about the same dude. We're talking about the storm deity of fertility, not the storm deity of Yahweh that causes destruction, but the one of fertility, the one that helps your plants grow. We're talking about good old Baal. So, in the story with Elijah, he calls out all the other worshipers of Baal, all the priests. Tell the priest, hey, you build a pyre, I'm gonna build a pyre. Whoever God's like this pyre, that's the true God. Right? The Baal people, they pray and they worship and they're doing all this stuff. Elijah gets a little assholery, and he's like, oh, I guess your God is asleep. I guess he's too busy for you. I guess he got other things going on. And then boom, Yahweh likes Elijah's flame. And then, of course, in his cruelty, Yahweh then burns up and kills the priest of Baal. But in note, wouldn't you think, other than they should have converted over, wouldn't you think that he would have said, see, your God doesn't exist? Not that he's busy, not that he's delayed, not that Yahweh is preventing him or anything like that, but he didn't say that they didn't exist. Your God doesn't exist. This is proof that your God doesn't exist. It's as if he's acknowledging your God exists, but he ain't about shit. He ain't doing that. Now, if that was my only example of Baal, I would probably be like, you can go either way on that. You can lean left, you can lean right. But here's the thing about Baal that really gets me. Because, not Baal. Shit, I was about to say that about Baal. That's not Baal. Now, so that is my thing about Baal. That is my thing about Baal. Right? You can go either way with that. But there's a story, that's how that my transition was, but there's another story that I think most people don't realize that they believe. And let me clarify. This is debatable. There are some scholars who think that Baal or Baal means just father or Lord, and it's really just more of a title, in the same way that Moloch is just a form of sacrifice. So there is some debate about that. But the problem is that there are artifacts of totems and things of that nature, that idols that people have made, that they found that people made, that is the god Baal. So although it could be a title, but it also used to be a god. Just like Milcom could have just been a king that was then ascended as a god. And then the scribal era of Milcom and Moloch. So it gets a whole lot deeper in some of the understandings of it. Now, to pivot to and I'm just giving out a whole bunch of these, and then we're gonna just get into regular conversation. So that's what I've been doing. I created a little list here. And damn it, I'm going through my list. And I'm glad nobody has mentioned this dude yet. Or at least I didn't see anybody mention it. But y'all forgot about Dagon. Y'all forgot about Dagon. Nobody mentioned Dagon. Y'all always like to jump ahead of me, you know, especially Isaac. Isaac always trying to jump ahead of me. Uh, Boondock is always trying to jump ahead of me. Hands of Omega, this is his first time that I've seen him jumping ahead of me, but I'm throwing him in there. Always trying to jump ahead of me. But none of y'all mentioned Dagon. And it might be because you don't think about it. You know? But you got to think about the whole concept to see how they are making Dagon into an action hero. Right? Now, if I just told you the end of the story, you could say Dagon, that doesn't show that Dagon is an action hero god. Because when the Philistines had captured the Ark of the Covenant and they put it inside the temple of Dagon, when the Philistines came back the next morning, they found the statue of Dagon was laying flat on his face. Proof of the power of Yahweh, El, over Dagon, right? That's how they view it. That's how they wrote it. Now, if I just told you that and left it right there, the argument could be that this doesn't show Dagon having any power whatsoever, that he's not an action hero god, right? And I'm changing the title of this to the other action hero gods. But I want you to think about something. There's something in that story that makes Dagon an action hero god, right? Good afternoon, Stephanie. Come on, what y'all think about it? I want to see if y'all can think about it. What in the story? The Philistines go in, they capture the Ark of the Covenant. They take the Ark of the Covenant to the temple of Dagon. They go to sleep. The next morning, the statue of Dagon is falling on his face, which is disrespectful as hell. So, but if Dagon just fell on his face, you can say that, well, Dagon didn't do any action hero stuff. What am I not saying that makes him an action hero god? Says somebody pushed over the statue. I know the Pope had this, the fish miter. Nope, that ain't it. That is really Dagon. And some people call it Dagon, whichever one. Somebody pushed it over. Come on, y'all. Yeah, you got to be for those who was on here yesterday, you got to be an esoteric Christian or Jew in order to get this. You got to read between. Actually, you ain't got to read between the lines. You just got to remember one important thing. If you can remember one important thing about the Ark of the Covenant, then you would realize how Dagon is an action hero god. How is Dagon in action? I ain't been drinking none of my coffee. I've been. And while y'all thinking about that, I want to remind you that in the description of this video, there is the link for our meetup in San Antonio, October 31st through November 2nd. Click on that link. Free breakfast, free dinner, you know, and we're going to have some meetups in places that are free. Really? Israelites are hiding in the ark like a Trojan horse and snuck out at night and defaced Dagon's statue. That's not it, but okay. It's a good try. You're the only one that can use the ark. There's something, okay. Fair enough. He's asking other people to do what he like. what Ross is talking about ain't got nothing to do with what we're talking about. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and tell y'all. I'm going to go ahead and tell you. Since, and I know, and when I say this, you're going to be like, ah, shit, I knew that. When they were building the Ark of the Covenant, one of the things that was said is that if anyone other than a Levite touches the Ark of the Covenant, they will die. When the ark was about to fall, and the man reached out to try to catch it. He tried to do a good thing, but he wasn't a Levite. What happened to him? Lightning bolts. He died, right? So riddle me this, Batman. If the Philistines were worshiping Dagon, and they came and they carried the Ark of the Covenant off to their temple of temple of Dagon, how could they touch it without the power of Dagon superseding the power of Yahweh? That's why Dagon is a action hero god. Dagon had to have given the Philistines the power of protection to be able to carry the Ark of the Covenant away. Did Dagon deliver Samson? No, Yahweh supposedly delivered Samson. It was just in a temple of Dagon where Samson supposedly pulled down the pillars. I knew it. Yeah. Yeah, I knew people were gonna after I said it. But you couldn't even carry the poles. You couldn't carry the poles. Because that's what the man who tried to catch it, he tried to catch the poles of it to keep it from falling. You can't even touch the poles of it. Okay, first, I don't know if your comment is directed towards me, Ross, but the thing about it is, on this channel, we don't believe, the overwhelming majority of people, we don't believe in none of this book, so ain't none of us ham. And it don't matter, that's what the book says. The book says that supposedly Dagon is an action hero god, and he exists. That ain't got nothing to do with the racism that you are promoting. So yeah, beyond that. Oh, you said that's why you said it. So and let me show you how these things don't have, they try to force it all to have this meaning that these are the demons, the fallen angels who are acting like gods, right? So you all have heard of Beelzebub, right? Beelzebub is a Philistine god. And Beelzebub is like the Lord of the Flies. It's the Lord of, Lord of the Flies. Just leave it right here. In the New Testament, when Jesus is casting the demons out into the swine, he says that Beelzebub is their father. But of course, this is why they try to make Beelzebub part of the unification of the devil. The serpent, Lucifer, Satan, Beelzebub, they all the devil. Beelzebub is a Philistine god. Jesus was saying and trying to create the unification of the devil in that statement. What he was saying was the demons that had gotten inside of whoever the man that was tied up, that those demons were under the pantheon of the Philistine god Beelzebub. So the Jesus character wasn't talking about the devil in there, because that concept hadn't fully matured yet. So when you take it for the time frame that it was written, in and around 70 to 120 CE, that was him saying that the Philistine god Beelzebub is an action hero god, because his demons literally were inhabiting a man, and then asked in a negotiation if they can go into the pigs. That's a good point. Ever notice there are no demons in the Old Testament? In the New Testament, you can't swim the cat without hitting someone possessed by an unclean spirit. Let me check my mind library real quick just to make sure. But that is a good point. There are no demons in the Old Testament. There are only other gods, and there are angelic beings of those other gods. They are, sub gods to them within there. Yeah, I can't think of one instance where there's anything mentioning a demon in the Old Testament. I haven't considered that. Thank you very much. Interesting thought. Yeah, there's no demons. They are just, and that's the thing. And everything that we've talked about today thus far, every time one of these prophets or whomever went up against another religion, another belief system, they never went up against a demon. They always went up against another god. That is a very good way of putting it out there. Can you explain the crucifixion of David? I can't. I don't know what you mean by explaining the crucifixion of David. He died. I don't know much about that one, actually. I haven't spent much time on the crucifixion of David. So I don't know what insight you're asking for on that one. You know what? I usually don't jump off. Well, it's been about an hour. I always think this is this is the Hebrew Israelite cop out. You don't read Jewish text, do you? Demonology comes from Solomon. First of all, the keys of Solomon is not part of your Bible. It's not part of your canon. And the keys of Solomon was a book that I believe it was created in like the 14th century or something like that. 14th, 15th, 16th century. It's a more recent creation. It wasn't written by Solomon. It's something that somebody in the Renaissance time frame or after the Renaissance, it's something they created. So it's not even a real book that goes back to that time frame. It's some bullshit that somebody made up during the time frame of the Renaissance. But then that whole, you don't read Jewish text. Do you read Canaanite? Can you read cuneiform? Can you read cuneiform, my guy? That's my question to you. Because the Jewish people come from the Canaanite people. Canaanite people wrote cuneiform, which they got from the Sumerian and Akkadians. Can you read cuneiform? Since we want to do that, can you read cuneiform? Because otherwise you don't know what you're talking about if you can't read cuneiform. But they are like, if somebody that they like transcribes something from some Proto-Hebrew or something like that, oh yeah, that we can trust his work. Especially if they look like them. believe some bullshit that ain't went through no peer review whatsoever. It's such a huge cop out. Because show me your paperwork or your bloodline that goes to Hebrews. Show me what a real Hebrew is from the ancient time frame. Because them jokers ain't nothing but a whole mixture of everybody. A whole bunch of Mediterranean mix up. They mutts, all of them. Any Hebrew that was alive in the 1st and 2nd century CE, BCE, they mutts. They got all kind of blood mixed in them. They got Greek blood. They got Roman blood. They got shit. Wasn't even such. They got Arab blood. They got Eastern blood. They got Egyptian blood, Kush blood. They got everybody blood because they mutts because they were conquered constantly by everybody for 1,000 years. Conquered by the Egyptians, conquered by the Sumerians, conquered by the Akkadians, then conquered by the Assyrians, then conquered by the Babylonians, then conquered by the Persians, then conquered by the Greeks, then conquered by the Romans, and then ran again by Egypt, and ran again by the Ottomans, and the, man, please. I'm a Hebrew. The most conquered people in all of history. Just mixed up. Coming here with that nonsense. Coming here and talking that bullshit about the Hebrew bullshit. You don't read Hebrew. Go learn how to read cuneiform and then come talk to me. No, that's for after I'm done. So anyway, so now the Bible, according to the Bible, now of course there's the mentioning of multiple other gods in there. Now, like I said, what we was looking at was the action hero gods, the god that performed the same type of magic tricks that the God of the Bible did. Snakes, staffs turned into snakes, turning water into blood, allowing your side to win a war, allowing people protection to carry your Ark of the Covenant that's supposed to kill everybody who touches it. Your angel against his angel. And your angel get that ass whooped. These were action hero things. We did talk about Asherah because they had worship towards Asherah. She wasn't an action hero god, but the Israelites themselves had dedicated pillars of worship and incense pillars for her worship. So they accepted her as a mother goddess in the same way that they looked at Astarte as the queen of heaven, or you can use Astarte or Elnana, Ishtar. Is relatively all the same thing, same person. Now, they also mention other gods. There are mentionings of Hermes. There's mentionings of Artemis or Diana. There's mentionings of Zeus and Jupiter, Zeus/Jupiter, Milcom. Then they found pillars, little statuettes of Milcom. They don't specifically say, but when Rachel's father, Laban, went chasing after them because Rachel had stole the gods of their house, the idols of their house, and she was sitting on them, claiming that she was on her monthly, and therefore Laban couldn't touch her. Because Laban came out of Chaldea in the city of Ur, well, it doesn't specifically say city, but because he pretty much is Canaanite or Sumerian, then we can assume or make the assumption that these gods that were spoken of were either out of the Canaanite pantheon or they're out of the Sumerian pantheon, which both of them, the Sumerians and the Canaanites, have that rule that if a woman has an issue, then she, you don't touch her. But she's not an issue. If she's on her monthly, then you don't touch anything she set on. Now, because Abraham came out of Ur, he was Sumerian or Chaldean Sumerian, we're going to make the conclusion that these gods that Rachel was sitting on were the Sumerian gods. So there's been Enlil, Enki, Ilnana, all in the, Ninharsag. So the Bible still mentions other gods as far as people believing in them. But at the end of the day, none of them, there's no proof of any existence of any of them beyond the belief of man. The fact that people believe in. It's kind of like the little Clash of the Titans movie when Hades realized that he can gain power from people through fear because the other guys were like, nobody's worshiping us. So is that Clash of the Titans or the Perseus movie? One of them. But we're losing worship, so we're getting weaker. And so Hades realized that through fear, we can get them. I can get power. Without the worship of people, there is no power in any god. And I want you to just try this on for a second, Stephanie. I've seen demons and some come in the flesh. And thinking about what we've talked about today, are they demons? Or could they just be, and not that I'm just something for you to think about, could they be gods of other pantheons? Maybe Enlil came to you, or Enki, or Ninharsag, or maybe Brahma or Krishna. You know what I'm saying? Why does it have to be a demon? Why? If now, for me, I'm not saying for you, not judging anybody. I will first probably look at it as something that I created in my own mind before I give it over to some exterior being. But if you do give it to some exterior being, is it the conditioning that we've been through in this world of these religions that now have, if it's not of my religion, it's a demon, that we still automatically make it a demon, right? Could have been, if those beings exist in some form or fashion, if you can say that a demon came to you, could you also say that it wasn't a demon at all, but was a deity of one of the other pantheons? You see what I'm saying? And then there was a movie, there's this crazy ass movie I want to see. I think it's called The Last Childhood or The Childhood. Some aliens come down and they helping mankind and they get man into this whole society. And then when the aliens finally show themselves, they look like the Dante's Inferno devil. And all the people are like, oh, they're all afraid at first, but then they get over it. But we have these images in our mind of what demons look like because of Dante's Inferno. You know what I'm saying? Dante's Inferno has created the images of what's an angel, what's a demon. Greek, what's the word I want to say? Greek architect has created these images of what angels look like with their little wings and their little halos and all that stuff. You see, when we're deconstructing from this religion, we have to realize that we still got some stuff, some imagery in our heads. Okay, wait a minute. Possibly it could have been a demigod, all right? I've encountered some sadistic, evil, wild people, and if they are doing something that is, that is very disturbing. Now, when it comes to people, that's just them. That's just them. You do realize humans are horrible. We don't need no extra help as humans to do something crazy, to do the worst thing. And no, Joseph, I don't think that it's other demons, other pantheon, and other gods or beings from other pantheons. Like I said, my first inclination would be, what is my mind creating? What is my mind creating? And then if something else showed up, what planet you from? If it materialized, what planet you from? What dimension are you from? You're not a god. You're not going to get that out of me. No, no. Nothing could ever show up to me and prove that it is the God. I think that would be an impossibility. And if it did, you are the creator, God. Okay, you created and you let all this shit happen. You let all this shit happen. You couldn't do no better than this. So I'm gonna have a problem with it. Whatever it is, I'm gonna have a problem with it. You know. Gonna have a big problem with that. I know I'm missing a lot of y'all comments. I'm sorry. I'm trying to catch as much as I can at this point. You know, we in our just talking about any peace elder. I am not an elder. Don't let the grave. No, I just what if it's just on smoking? I see that you hard, but what's your understanding? I mean, you got to know the risk of whatever you do, whatever you put in your body, on your body, in your mind, and do whatever makes you happy, as long as you're not forcing anybody else to do it. But when you know something, so like if cigars had cancer rates like cigarettes, I would not smoke cigars. But you are 0.01% chance of getting cancer from cigars. So there's that. Now, back to those stuff. And now I do think that there are, she had a comment that say a being could be an angel or a devil, depending upon how it feels and what it does that day. And that's true. You could be an angel one day, you could be a demon the next day. You could be an angel till you could do one act. This group of people say you're an angel, this group of people say you're a demon, depending upon how it affects them. We see that just in our regular world. Airstrike in Iran. To some Americans, yay. To other Americans, hell no. To the Iranians, all hell knows. How something affects you makes the difference between whether it's good or bad. And we're just selfish like that. What up, Freeline? Ooh, y'all moving too fast. Now, oh, there was somebody that said something about telepathy earlier. I couldn't see where it was at. I think it was Stephanie that said it. The mind is the most unexplored thing to the human race, is the exploration of the mind. We know a lot, but compared to what we don't know, we know very little. So we have ways of connecting with people, receiving people's thoughts, but we ain't quite mastered it, you know, because thoughts are energy. There's a lot we don't know. I mean, just the fact that you go to sleep and you create whole universes in your mind and all these things happen. We don't really understand dreams and their purpose and how they truly function and what it's really saying about us or the universe. There's so much we don't know about the mind. But what does all that mean? You know, you can sit here. I've sat And I ain't gonna lie, I have sat in meditation sometimes with my eyes wide open, and I could have swore that beings came into the room. And no, I wasn't on shrooms. I wasn't smoking nothing, drinking nothing, just meditating. And I understand that high levels of meditation can create those types of situations, but you could not have told me, and you still can't tell me, that beings didn't come into the room. You can't tell me that when I was younger, my grandfather, after he passed away, didn't come and sit on the edge of my bed and tell me that the family is going to fracture and it's going to be up to me to bring them back together. And then you cannot tell me that that is exactly what happened. And it's exactly that some actions I took brought us back together. I cannot explain it. I don't believe it was my actual grandfather. I don't know if in that state of mind I did some type of astral travel and knew what was going to happen to the family, came back and in the image of my grandfather and told myself that. I don't know. To this day, I can't tell you. There are some unexplainable things that happen. But what I know is the mind is very powerful. It's a very powerful thing. Sons of Mithra used to say that that time is a river and it goes in a circle. And you can pull from any part of the circle when you get to a level of understanding. Now, I don't think they mean that in the literal sense of you can just time travel, but your mind can conceptualize things at different time frames. So that's why I when people say that they see demons, see angels, the mind is a very powerful thing. Very powerful. And then dimensional levels, like the law of correspondence talks about the fact that there are levels of consciousness. There's no full way of understanding that because we've never been to another dimension and came back with any proof, or no dimensional being has come back and left us some proof and say, hey, here's the gateway. This is how you get over here to this dimension. But yeah. So that's my whole spiel on the action hero gods of the Bible, the other action hero gods of the Bible. I had a friend that was killed in '98, and I had to spend some time in the county lockup. My friend came to me in a dream inside the cell. I was occupied, and he sat on the desk, looked at me, and I just smiled. Were you awake? Were you in a state of meditation? Were you awake? Were you asleep? Were you smoking something? Were you smoking that orange peel? Were you smoking some orange peels? I don't know. I was told that there's a way that people in jail make orange peels and smoke them. We Hindus believe in divine beings called devas, yep, who are a manifestation of Brahma, right? And devas run the cosmos. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and people believe that. I actually love going to Hindu and Buddhist temples They're the most peaceful places to meditate, and they are very welcoming. And they don't try to force their religion on you either, but they don't mind you visiting. But I learned enough about it to be able to respect what they do and respect the encounters that I have when I go there. I like them, but I can deal with Hindus better than I can deal with Christians, because like the Hindus and the Buddhists are like, all these ways are pathways. They don't try to have the superiority that the other religions have. Candidates aren't crazy to have they encounter demons and angels, but please don't discredit it because people have to. Oh, I'm not discrediting it. Discrediting it. I'm serious. Ever since they took these two teeth out, certain words, discrediting it. I was stating the possibilities of why, of other possibilities, other thoughts, and then the idea that it's the demons. Just because something unless its actions are terrible towards you, did you determine it was a demon because of actions, or did you determine it was a demon because of the way it looked? And mainly I was focusing on how we said that this is an angel, this is the demon, based on how it looked. And those are things that's been programmed into our minds. So that's what I hope I clarified that. So who was that who I asked, was he awake or asleep? What's your thoughts on rituals? So rituals, depending upon the rituals. Now, I do certain rituals to help me get in the mindset for something that I know I'm just doing because my mind is doing it. Like I explained how I use the ritual of chakra bowls for meditation. It's not that I practice the religions of Buddhism or Hinduism. I just use that as a ritual to get myself in a mindset. It's all about getting myself in a mindset. And every ritual is really just, well, not every ritual. Most rituals are about getting yourself in the mindset of doing something or believing something. But when something is the ritual of, I need to sacrifice this goat so that God can forgive me, that's some bullshit. Let's see. You celebrate your birthday? Yeah, I celebrate the day that I was born. Well, actually, other people around me celebrate it. I really don't care about the birthday. But what's the point of that one, Kevin? No, I saw this reptilian literally in my room about 4 years, and I was petrified, and it disappeared. Next time, don't be afraid. Why were you afraid of the reptilian? Actually, that's my point, Stephanie. Why are you afraid of the reptilian? There's a level of conditioning that happened somewhere in your life that made you say, oh, if a being shows up and it's a reptilian, then I should be afraid of it. Think about small children. I know I did like this for small children. Think about small children. You take me to one of them little places where they be having the snakes and you can rub on the snake. I'm like, hell no. But there are most of the time small children who don't know. They'll be like touching on it and everything. What has convinced you that the reptilian was something to be fearful of? And that's what I was meaning by we still got some indoctrinations, Because if a reptilian showed up in my life, I'd be like, hey man, hey, how you doing? Let's sit down. Here you go, bro. You need a cigar? Sit down. Let's have a conversation. You know what? I forgot. That is the most action hero god of all times. The flying spaghetti monster on Saturn has done so many things in my life with the Parmesan wheel. Have you ever played with a Ouija board? Nah. Actually, there are some subtle descriptions of what certain angels and look like, in the Bible versions. You got to remember what Ezekiel talked about, all the different eyes and the wheels and all that sort of thing. And Revelation talked about they got a lion head and an eagle head and all that sort of thing. So there are some descriptions of some of them. And what's interesting is that most believers of the Bible, if the Ezekiel type angel showed up, they will be terrified. And they supposed to believe in this thing, but they will be terrified. And that's why every time they see one of them angels, they're like, oh Lord, oh Lord. And they're always in fear. And that's why when Gabriel supposedly showed up to Joseph and Mary, please do not be afraid. Or to the shepherds, do not be afraid. These people, I would love to see the Ezekiel angels show up at a church and watch them scatter like cockroaches and the lights turned on. Oh, that's why you guys want to have one birthday yourself. The day you celebrate is not the same day. Yeah, that's why if you ever see me, I always tell people happy born day, because it's the day you were born. And you just commemorate, but you're just commemorating I allow people to commemorate the wonderful day that I came into this world and have provided so much harmony and love and grace and happiness in their lives. This is what I tell my family all the time. Y'all should be so appreciative that I came into y'all lives, because without me, y'all wouldn't be nothing. Of course, I get a lot of eye rolling, especially from my aunts, but it's fun. It's funny to me. And they know I'm just being sarcastic. Just like Monsters Inc., when the little girl wasn't scared of the monsters. Yeah, little kids, when they don't have the programming yet. You said in another lifetime you encounter the draconian reptilians. But just if it happens again, don't be afraid. He might then give you one of the God speeches. Stephanie, do not be afraid, for you have found favor with the Lord of the dark fleets. And I bring this unto you. You might get some superpowers. You might be missing out on some superpowers. It might have a limitless pill for you without the side effects. Oh, I knew Boondocks was gonna turn it into some astrotheology. No, man, he was talking about what the being looked like. What about all the bird-headed stuff and the goat-headed stuff? Well, not goat, but the lion-headed stuff. You gonna make that into the astrotheology as well? moving too fast. Okay. I don't. What do you mean by this? The supernatural is for people who believe that north of the North Pole exists. Now I know there are multiple North Poles and South Poles, depending upon what we're talking about. True North, magnetic North, and there's another North. I can't think of what it is. But what are you talking about? What do you think about the zodiacs and where does it come from? I heard that it's wrong from Neil deGrasse Tyson. I haven't heard Neil deGrasse Tyson talk about it, but I think that the zodiacs is just people looking up at the stars and creating images out of it. Now, some of them are easy to create. Big Dipper, Little Dipper, I understand those two. Some of the other ones, Orion or Asar, whichever name you want to go by, Canis Major and all this kind of stuff. People just looking at stars and making shit up. As far as the zodiacs, having something to do with how I am, who I am, and all that kind of stuff, I think most of it is a bunch of bullshit. The zodiacs they change. They have been changing centuries after centuries. Stars move. Nothing is going to be the same spot. So what about 100,000 years from now? The stars in the sky are not going to be in the same position that they're in now. So zodiacs to me is a bunch of wishful thinking. I can look at the stars and draw a car if I want to, and what we're going to call that. Well, if I did it, it'll be the Mustang constellation. You see what I'm saying? Just like when you look at a cloud, I forgot what it's called. Was it peridium or something like that? It's paranodium or it's something. When you look at clouds and you start to see shapes in the clouds, same thing with zodiacs. And somebody figured out how to trick people with it, just like with religion. Oh, you were born under the constellation of Taurus, the bull. That means you're going to be stubborn. That means you are a hard charger. I know some people born under these zodiacs, and when I read these damn things, I'm like, that motherfucker is not it. Right? And yes, zodiacs. Now, I will agree. This is where I do agree with Boondock. Zodiacs are definitely talked about throughout the Bible because those people believe that stuff matters. They believe that when a comet shows up, it means something. You know what it means? It means that the comet is in its orbit around our sun. That's when the comet is doing what it's supposed to do. It's called a whole bunch of physical laws that are going on. Thank you, Boondocks. I knew somebody like you would tell him. Pareidolia. That's all zodiacs are to me, is pareidolia. And if you think about it, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to look at the stars and I'm going to figure out the Mustang constellation, and it's going to look like a car. And then I'm going to figure out the Gold Wing constellation because it's going to look like a motorcycle. And then I'm going to make up some shit about it. If you were born during that time frame, this is what it means. And then science have proven some of the astrology stuff to be so jacked up. Like when they say Mars is in retrograde. Understand what retrograde means. It means that it's moving backwards in its orbit. Mars never moves backwards in its orbit. It's just an optical illusion from our positioning on the Earth. Now, I could probably get with that. That is just a tool for mapping and tracking the sun, the moon, and the planets. And it's all the woo-woo stuff that came after. What are your thoughts on the term Christ consciousness and people who say humanity as a whole represents Jesus from? You didn't see the video yesterday? We talked about that yesterday, the whole esoteric Christian thing. There is no such thing as Christ consciousness because there's no such thing as Christ. You cannot have Christ consciousness when no Christ has come. There is no Christ mind. That would be more of a hermetic mind, an alchemical mind. where you start to understand how the universe functions, how all the things that we consider to be important and real, like race and nations and all those things, are man-made creations, labels that we've attached to ourselves. But there is no Christ consciousness because there is no Christ. And this is something that developed because there was in Buddhism the Buddha mind. So the esoterics of Christianity developed this idea of Christ consciousness. If you actually look at the Bible, Paul is not talking about having the same mind of Jesus to where you understand the esoteric thought process, but he was talking about having the behavior, being humble, being sacrificial. These are live, actionable things you do on earth, not some elevation of the vibration of your mind. Now, in Buddhism, there is that thought process, which that's why they have the Buddha head, or you can call it the Buddha mind. But they're just copying what they pulled from Buddhism into Christianity. And hell, you can have a star named after you now. I know the Hermetic understanding of the laws of the universe. There are 7. And actually there's like a sub one within the law of, when you combine the law of vibration and the law of, it's the law of vibration, polarity, and cause and effect that creates the law of polarization. But that is the closest that we'll know. And then, of course, there are other laws of the universe. There's centrifugal force. There's gravity. There's torque. What gender are the Gemini twins? I have no idea. What are they, males, females? I have no idea. You should make it, man. You might make some money off that. Why hasn't anyone made a video fighting game based on the zodiacs? Like the Aquarius man, he got his pail of water and then he Haruken, and a whole bunch of water gushes out. And everybody would want to be Scorpio. I don't know. Libra can be a dude and he got the scales and he whittling them scales, like he got the pole and the other parts be spinning and they change and they be like knives on it, or be like some maces on the end of it. And he be tell you, man, you might make some money off that one. Nah, astrology is not necessarily Hellenistic. Pretty much every culture around the world has some type of astrology, has some type of belief that the stars and the comets and the planets mean something. So I wouldn't say that's Hellenistic. That's kind of like everybody. And you got to think about ancient man who didn't understand how nature works would have thought about that, would have looked at everything from an earthquake, a volcanic eruption, rain, meteorites, every planet that they could see and recognize and give it some type of deification. And then when they saw shapes in constellations, then create stories. And that's how you create demigods. The whole story of Hercules is pretty much because they looked at a constellation and said, oh, that looks like a man with a big ass club. Hercules. Well, we got to create a story so we can talk about how he got up into the heavens. And same thing with Orion, and make him into the mighty hunter. And the same time that they were making him into the mighty hunter, it probably had some Canaanites doing the same thing with Nimrod and him being the mighty hunter. And then the Egyptians looked at the same thing and said, no, that's a Sar. Do you think we're in a simulation like the Matrix? Nah, I don't. And just because it was a theory and it gained a lot of ground when the Matrix movie came out, but no. There's nothing that indicate that. People talk about, oh, there's a glitch here. They see these glitches and all these sorts of things. Now, and that's one of the parts of hermetics that I have issues with, but I can understand it, but I still have issues with it, is that we all exist in the mind of the all. You can understand that because we have dreams, or we can sit here and envision a whole universe inside of our mind. Now, our minds are not as powerful to be able to create every detail that we see. And it may not need to create every detail because the beings living in our mind would see those things. We don't necessarily have to see them. But if there is the all and we live in the mind of the all, then what mind does the all live in for it to have its existence to be able to create? So then that would mean the all is not the all. It would only be the all to us. But it would have an all that it has. And that would be eternal, a continuous thing. So Gemini is Castor and Pollux, and they both are male. Okay. There you go. You say it's always the same day every day. It doesn't have to be. The other day, Kevin's day wasn't the same. They got on a plane, they flew to Medellin, Colombia. That's a different day than the day before. See, this is too much. Those people wouldn't believe in that when they wrote that, though. That's the problem with that. Like Jesus, the worship of Jesus on a Sunday, Christians will claim that it is because he supposedly rose on that Sunday. But then they made that claim because Constantine changed their worship from Friday. Because before Constantine, Christians worshiped Friday night to Saturday night, just like the Jewish counterparts did. It wasn't until Constantine ordered them to change their worship day to Sunday to coincide with the Roman society, which worshiped on Sunday, with most of them worship on Sunday. Because Jewish people, whether free or slave, not working on a Friday night through Saturday was one of the problems that was causing unrest in the Roman Empire. So when Constantine sought to satisfy that issue, that's why he made Christians convert their worship to Sunday. And then they started calculating a justification for it. Now, I don't know about the Moses thing. I've never heard that one before. That him being, and I can never say the name of that constellation. Ophiuchus. Yeah, that one. But yes, Saturday is Saturn's day because they named the days after the planets. The planets that they could see had a day. Sun for Sunday, moon for moon day. Moon day was Monday. Saturn was Saturday. And you see it in the Latin languages. Tuesday was actually is what Martes, so that's Mars. Wednesday, even though we use the Germanic Norse of Woden's Day, but Wednesday, what is Wednesday in Spanish? Wednesday in Spanish. I know, so by somebody telling me that what, but if you look at the Spanish of Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, they're all planets. Like I know Friday is supposed to be like Venus. Yeah, thank you. It's Mercury, so it's Martes, Miércoles. I forgot what the Spanish Jupiter was, and then Venus is Friday. It was the since English is a Germanic language, and the Germanic gods were the Norse gods. Will the Germanic god would become the Norse gods? Uh, those days of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday were changed to the Norse. But in Italian, French, and Spanish, it's still based on planets. So these were planets, right? And they did coincide. Like Frigga equals Friday, and that's Venus. And Friday in those Latin languages is what is Viernes, some shit like that. I know I told you I was working on Spanish, but I ain't been working on it for months. So basically, they just looked up and they deified those things, and they said, "Oh, look, there are 7 heavenly bodies: the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn." It's a good thing. Imagine if back then they actually saw Uranus and Neptune, then we'd be on a 9-day calendar because they would have tried to give a day for each one of them. Yeah, and there are some calendars that had 3-day weeks and 12-day weeks. If you time travel 2,000 years, still great alien being crucified on the cross. I wouldn't be surprised. Thank you. Friday is Viernes. There you go. What's Thursday? Thoughts on Bitcoin? What's your thing on Eric von Danken and Paul? I don't know. I don't know the Paul guy. But Eric, I think he's a brilliant writer. I think he's a brilliant business person. Chariots of the Gods was very upsetting in the Christian world because basically he really personified the ancient astronaut theory, and it's justifiable. A lot of the stuff when you read a lot of the stuff in the Bible sounds. I thought Viernes is Wednesday. I thought that was Friday. You sure? No, that has to be Viernes has to be Friday. And I know Thursday is Thor's day, but what is it in Spanish? But sorry. The Chariots of the God book was an interesting read for me in the 90s because it would indicate and seem like there were aliens. That a lot of this stuff that they're talking about was alien interventions. You know how El descended upon the mountain with fire and smoke. Almost sounded like some type of rocket ship descending. You know, so it's all that kind of stuff. And these gods having this aerial battles in the sky. And even with the DNA, we still don't know. They say there's some part of our DNA that looks like it's fused together and it doesn't look natural. So the jury's out. Thursday is Jueves, which that's Jupiter. Thank you. Do you think if humanity didn't give so much power to religion and needing somebody else to rule them, like a God and I can reptilian, that humanity as a whole would be more evolved? Most certainly. Religion, in most cases, has held people back. Yeah, a person who practices Islam would talk about how these Islamic people were able to have the leaps in sciences during the Arab invasion and the Muslim conquest, but even some of their scientists were stagnated. We definitely know that during the Inquisitions and the Dark Ages, Christian scientists stagnated. In other parts of the world, not as much stagnation because their environment. Like when you look at the Aztec Mayans, you look at the sub-Saharan Africans, they didn't have a need for a lot of stuff that other cultures developed. Like a wagon in the middle of a jungle or deep forest in Brazil is not a useful tool. But religion has still stagnated development of culture, of fairness. Would we still have developed nationhood and national identities and go to war with resources? Yeah, that stuff still would have happened. But one thing about war, and I know this is going to sound terrible, but war creates ingenuity. So war would have advanced society as well. I always appreciate you when you come in here, Stephanie. You always add that value. Many of you, a lot of you guys add value. Don't forget to go into the description and sign and reserve your room for our meetup in San Antonio, October 31st through November 2nd. Make sure you're here. Free food, man. There's gonna be some free food. Better get on the free food. Oh, I didn't know he did a lecture about how much Arabian scholarship science degraded once Islam took over. Yeah. Although we can see some advances, there are still other advances that are then shut down. If an advancement is going to hinder the religious belief, they're going to shut it down. They wanted to shut down Copernicus. They shut down Galileo like a champ. You had people like John Dees who had to hide most of the stuff he was dealing with. Although he professed Christianity, he was big time into alchemy, but he had to hide most of that stuff. If it goes against the doctrine of the day, it's shut down. I think we would be much more advanced. We would probably have med beds right now if it wasn't for all that bullshit. Look at Jehovah's Witnesses. These jokers is dying because they can't get a blood transfusion. Said I should have started with free food. Yes, the Drury Hotel. And see, this is why you gotta get reserved at the Drury Hotel. You get a free breakfast. You get a free. They have snacks during the day, and you get a free supper buffet. Yeah. Thank you, Angelina. So Jueves, Thursday, Viernes. I thought Viernes was Friday. Thank you. Sábado is Saturday. So those are based on heavenly bodies. But my Duolingo gave me the mad face because I hadn't checked on done it. Now this is what's killing us. This is one of the other things that's holding back progression today, and that is profits. That is profits. If somebody actually created a med bed, they can't make money off of it. You can't make money off of it. If you created a med bed and you try to get it patented, you're gonna have the U.S. government gonna declare it a national security issue, and they're gonna shelve it. So I wouldn't even try to patent it. If I created a med bed, I would put it out free on the internet. You can't make money off of it. You just gotta let that be free. Because if the government don't stop you, the pharmaceutical companies, the the hospitals, oh, they all finna shut you down. And they might shut you down by closing your eyes forever. It will close your eyes forever. So should invite, I'm trying to get people to come onto the show to do interviews, and I don't get responses. I don't think they like me. I don't think I have a likable personality or something, because I'm trying to get interviews. Micah Dank. Okay. I say okay, but if I don't write it down, guess what's not gonna happen? What's not gonna happen? Somebody move my post notes. H Dank. I've heard about this. I heard about this like back in the 90s about a light bulb that doesn't blow out. You can't have light bulbs that don't blow out. You got to get that repeat buy. Look, if you have starting a business, if you start a business, you don't want to ever have a business that people give a one-time purchase and you never see them again. No, you need that multiple. Come back, come back, come back. So yeah, they gonna right, exactly, Casey. You gonna disappear. Coach, do you think that going in space is worth it? Is it a good investment for humanity? Yes, I do, actually. I think it's a good investment for humanity on multiple levels. One, it is the act of going into space that has created our ability to communicate with people the way we do communicate with people. Without space technology, the internet would be it would be regional. You would only be able to do it as far as you can communicate through towers and landlines. So it's not impossible without satellites, but it'll be more difficult and more costly to do it without satellites. And satellites aren't in true space. They just have in the upper atmosphere. Some medicines are perfected in that zero gravity environment. But I think in the long run, there will come a time where Earth, and this, if our species could last 1 billion years, I doubt it. I doubt if we can last 1 billion years. But if we are able to last 1 billion years, we ain't gonna be able to live on this planet in 1 billion years. We're gonna have to find another place to go. We might have to move to Mars. Like, I don't know how long it'll be before Mars is in the habitable zone, but we might go ahead and get there. How long will it be when Mars is in the habitable zone? I know it's habitable zone, and it won't be in the future due to the expanding habitable zone of our sun. The sun. Wait a minute. It is expanded to a red giant, pushing the habitable zone further out. Eventually, Earth will become uninhabitable, and the habitable zone will encompass the outer planets and their moons. Oh, so shit, we're gonna have to go to probably one of the moons of Jupiter and Saturn when our sun becomes a red giant. So Mars will, according to this real quick look, Mars will never be in the habitable zone. So one day we're gonna have to get to Jupiter. We gotta get to the moon, to Titan. So my bad for saying Mars. Say, I wonder how Wakanda economy works. You know, if you took notice, the thing about Wakanda is that they respected each other's religion, right? They didn't place their any in. They didn't place Basque. Basque was, they believe Basque exists, but with the Jabari tribe, they believe that Hanuman was their god, which I thought was pretty cool that they took Hanuman from the Hindu religion. Um, but you got them all in agreement and they're fine with their henotheistic beliefs. And because they had vibranium, they move forward. They're scientifically move faster than anybody else. But the biggest thing is that they respected each other's religious belief and didn't place one over the other. Mankind don't really do that too well. We did it in the past, but at the advent of the Judaism and Christianity, that shit went away. Once Rome got involved with that, that was gone. Yes, boss lady. So the lives, I announced it last week. No. But the lives have to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at noon, 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. Uh, had some life changes. Well, I got some life changes coming up, so that's why I went ahead and moved it now so that people can get used to it. You know what? I would watch that as a movie. Wakanda and them next door to Zamunda. I ain't never heard anybody say that before, but I like that one. Going to Zamunda. Yeah, I've heard of that, but ain't got no proof. He has no proof of that. And then put that up so y'all can read it. But basically, he's saying that and this is based off what Chachua, but there's no proof. And I saw where Boondocks was saying that at some point, something about the deserts. What do you say about the deserts? Pretty soon, all of our deserts will be uninhabitable. You know, man will find a way to live in any environment. I will give man that credit. These jokers figure out a way to live. When me and my wife are riding cross country, one of the things that I found very interesting once you get far enough away from San Antonio is that from San Antonio until you get to um, the mountains if you're going across the southern route, until you get to the mountains in California, it's just desert. Now there's some rivers and there's some rivers, lakes, and streams, and of course, man can always live where there is water. But when you look further out, and even when we was coming from Vegas going back down to Tucson, it was just desert, just nothing. Man will find that water, and when we find that water, we gonna live there. We're gonna figure out a way to live. Now, if the deserts dry up, but also there's the cycle. Like the Sahara Desert used to be green, right? So in another 10,000 years, well, no, it wouldn't. It'd be less than 10,000 years. It should be in about 3,000 years. the Sahara should turn back into its pot within 3,000 years at the earliest. The Sahara should turn back into a green. Are y'all on water restrictions? This is gonna sound very mean, boss lady. Y'all will get another flood. Like, remember what it was like last year? Y'all streets got flooded. No, but you're all right. When we rode across that dam, the Hoover Dam, it was at the Hoover Dam we went to. Yeah, the Hoover Dam. You can see where the water levels used to be and where it's at. And actually, here in San Antonio, this part of Texas has been in a 2 or 3 year drought. And you can go to some of the lakes, and the water level is incredibly low, if any water at all. But that's the thing; it goes through cycles, and humans are like a virus. You know, we consume and destroy environments. We'll figure out something. We'll squeeze some moisture out of the atmosphere, or, you know, there's desalination of salt water. We'll figure it out. Y'all can't give up Vegas. I didn't know you was in Vegas. If we'd have known that, well, no, because we were being lazy about the conference we was at, so we could have met up when we was in Vegas. Coach, do you think the DNA? I don't know about what Elon is doing. Flood stop by holding up empty water. Hands of Omega, I'm about to put you in the same category as Sean and Wrath and Tim. I can't take you serious. Do you think DNA splicing and cloning would be a good investment for humans, or should we never do that? Okay, I have a different kind of brain. Just put it that way. I'm okay with cloning parts, right? So let's say my heart goes out. My heart goes out. You know, it's starting to fail, and I'm 53 years old right now. Let's say it starts to fail. If you can clone my heart, and I know they can do that, you clone my heart and put me a brand new version of my heart into my body, and I know I'm only going to get 53 years out of it, I'm good with that. Now, cloning a whole person, which I know theoretically they say we're not there yet, but I don't trust government. You know, if you weren't listening to what Bill Clinton said back then when they cloned the sheep dollar, he said that cloning will not happen on American soil, which means that we're just gonna do it on somebody else's country. That's all that meant. The day he said that, I looked at my command and I was like, y'all know he just really saying that there's gonna be some cloning in some other country. But cloning the whole person, nah. You know, you've seen the movie The Island. I don't know if you've seen the movie The Island, but that's basically that concept. Rich people got clones of themselves. Originally, they were never supposed to be conscious. But then when the person would need the body parts, they would tell the person they won the lottery to go to this paradise place, and then they would kill that person and take the body parts that were needed in order to save that person. It's actually a very good movie, The Island. I'm not for that kind of cloning, but you want to clone some parts? Yeah. DNA splicing, if you want to up my DNA, figure out how to make my telomeres stay without degrading so that I can live forever, sure. Or if you can figure out a way of DNA splicing that makes me stronger, that gets rid of visceral fat, sure. Yeah. But now when you do some DNA stuff and you're able to make a chemical weapon that you can target certain people with DNA traits, no. But I'm all for the cloning of parts. What Peter Sam said. Why fight for cloning hearts and other organs? Just clone a perfect woman and all your organs will be fine. Have you not heard Eddie Murphy when he said that he gonna go find him a woman riding on a zebra? She don't know nothing about America. He said, but then he bring her back to America and she start hanging around the American women. And all of a sudden, Eddie, I want half. I want to talk to you. I want half, Eddie. I'm an American woman now, and I want half. There is no perfect man. There is no perfect woman. Just give me some body parts. Yep. When it comes to the government, never say never. They do a lot of scientific experiments without know. They certainly do. If you ever go, if you read the LSD trials, you'd be surprised at some of the things they did with the LSD trials. They even were doing some of those trials on children. If Africans could have tamed zebras, they would have ruled the world. You know, I went through a thought experiment of that. And for me, that means I just sat down and I just thought about the whole thing and the principles of it. You know, zebras, you cannot tame zebras. They are, they cause more injuries in zoos than any other animal because zebras are ornery as shit. They're more like donkeys than they are horses. But that would have changed and that's why I said earlier when we was talking about religion and scientific advancements, your environment makes a huge difference. Zebras, if they were more like horses than donkeys, would have changed African societies tremendously. The travel, just in the means of travel, would have made a huge difference. If horses would have never disappeared in the Americas when they migrated over into Asia and Europe and the Middle East, if horses and camels would have stayed in the Americas, the indigenous American civilizations would have been far more advanced. So I'm with you. I am with you. And yes, hippos are dangerous as hell. Just like them damn zebras. I went to your video on Bible names and I was on it ever since on a deeper level. Now it's easy to deflect issues without good. Don't know exactly which video you talk about because I make so many, but cool. I like that. That's part of the reason why I do this, is to help us to fortify our stance in deconstructing. Oh, Tamara, you laugh. But them hippos, those people who like the Nile River, you think they'd be most afraid of the crocodiles in the Nile River, but no, it's the hippos that they are most afraid of. Yep, you're right, Hands of Omega. Cowboys was a derogatory term aimed at black cattlemen because white people were considered cattlemen and cowboys, they put that on black people. But some of your original cowboys, yeah, the original cowboys were black. Black and Mexicans. And this is before when Texas was owned by Mexico. As a conscious person, what would you view as your guilty pleasure? I actually hate that term. I don't, well, I ain't gonna say hate, that's a strong word. I don't care for that term because it has the word guilty in it. I don't have any guilt about the things that I deem I receive pleasure from. So kind of express that differently. Because I like, some people will say, like I was talking to these people last night, we was talking about cigars, and I was telling them a great experience is cheesecake, coffee, and a cigar. People may say that's a guilty pleasure. We use that term, we would use that term to say that's a guilty pleasure. I don't feel guilty about that sort of thing. Hand of Omega said porn. When I was younger, did I feel guilty about porn? When I elevated my consciousness, did I feel guilty about porn? No. Why should I feel guilty about it? It's kind of like even with masturbation. People like feel guilty about masturbation. Why? Why do you feel guilty about masturbation? If you study Tantra, there are tantric practices that you do as a man that involves masturbation and porn in order for you to achieve certain mental states and certain sexual abilities. Why am I going to feel guilty about any of that? If society, just because society may feel that way, I don't give a damn what society thinks. I'm not going to feel guilty about it. What do you believe are the biggest lies, biggest issues in the Black community? That we allow for economic separation because of religious and political views. Because with economic separation, we remain powerless, or we low power. I ain't gonna say powerless, but we stay low in power. We believe that voting is the power block, but it's not. Economics is the power block. But we allow for religion. We allow for what's the other thing? Integration to create separation. That's the political views and monetary views. We allow for those materialism things to separate us. And even though I don't believe in race, at a higher level, we have to deal with it here. You know, I would love for my kids to live in a fair society where they're not judged. Police pull them over and I'm not concerned. But because of our own separation, division within our own groups, that keeps us from having economic power. And the moment that we stop doing that and we build our communities, like you're not going, so living in Atlanta, certain parts of, so Buford Highway is a great example because it changes. It's Mexican, then it's Vietnamese, then it's Mexican again, then it's Vietnamese, and then it's Korean. But in each division of it, there's different economic states along that road. If you're in the poorer part where it might be Vietnamese or Mexican, then they're over policed there. You get to the Mexican part that's, and I say Mexican, but I mean, so let me be clear, the Hispanic community. You get to the Hispanic part that is of higher income elevation, you don't have that problem. They're not over policed. You get to the Korean part, they're not over policed at all because it's in a high income area. So economics create the situation of who can or what the government can get away with. But also economics create, the higher the economics, the less crime you have in an area. So we will allow, you can have a great economic plan, but if you are Muslim or an atheist, Black people are gonna say, I don't want to deal with you. stupid. It's dumb. It's dumb. I could come to you and I can say, I got a plan. Here's the action plan, so that we're not over policed. We're providing jobs. We're starting businesses. We're building hospitals. We're controlling our school system. So we're controlling the education of our children, which gives them the chance for higher advancements in life, and it's going to make your neighborhood safer, and we will be homeowners. Here's the plan. Do you believe in Jesus? No, we don't want to do your plan. Religion. Or if I come with that plan, do you vote Democrat? No, I vote independent. You know, we can't deal with you. See what I'm saying? Stupidity. That is dumb. When they know voting don't do shit, to be honest. You know, you vote for your local elected officials, but your local elected officials are making rules, regulations based on who got the economic power in your community. Now, when you look at a poor community that's filled with Black people, who owns the land? Who owns the businesses? I've seen people influence the politics of a local area who don't live in that area, but their business is in that area. And so they pretty much pay off the local politician to make sure that they do zoning laws that are in favor for their business. So even though that local politician goes out and placates to the people who live there to get their vote, who's renting and all that, they make the rules for this person who lives 3 counties over. So that's what hurts us the most. And the belief, and then that's that belief that if it's anybody else's product, anybody else's service, it's better than our own service. It's better than our own products. So that's what we have to fight against. That's what we have to change. That's our biggest hindrance. And we you know how they always have those memes or whatever that it'll show like I got one on my phone where it got Africans in a raft and all of them saying amen, amen, amen. And then it got like a European on a big old ship and he got oil and gold and money and all this stuff and land. And it's like, and he's saying something like he's saying something like praise Jesus, something like that. So it's like, we're gonna give you Jesus, but we're gonna take all the resources. And the same thing is happening. The same thing is going on in any poor community, really. Any poor community, that's the same thing is going on. That's what I was trying to get across to white man of town yesterday. That he's so focused on race and what people he conceptually believe that people are getting. When it's like, dude, if you ain't part of the upper crust, we need to be on the same team and not be focused on some racial bullshit. I'm doing some archaeologist work in the land for the graveyards that have HUD homes built on them. Oh, that's pretty cool. God damn it. Speak up. I'm telling you, if you talk about somebody, they show up. Why don't you start your own business? I do. I'm getting ready to start another one. People from Pakistan do it all the time. They come here not knowing the language in the community, and they seem to outperform Black people. Oh, see, we can't get past the racism, dude. So first thing, before you make a statement to me about why don't you start your own business, you should have researched me, and you would know that I have owned businesses in the past that I've been taking a 1 year, year and a half sabbatical. I'm about to start another business. If you had done any research on me, you would already know those things. You would know that that I had a cigar lounge, gourmet popcorn shops, gym, an IT firm. You would know those things, but you do no research and you make statements. The other part is, as far as people coming over and outperforming, that is not a true statement, because here's the thing that people don't realize. You go to a 7-Eleven that's in a black, well, not 7-Eleven. You go to an Asian restaurant. Let's say an Asian comes over. They start a restaurant in the black community. That business seems to never go out of business. But then, like the street that I was just talking about, Buford Highway, you go up into the Korea portion of Buford Highway, you see businesses thriving and you see businesses shutting down. They don't outperform. When you overcompensate a type of business in any area, someone's going to lose. It's just like and that happens on all levels. Go to any corner where there are fast food restaurants, you will only see 3. 4 cannot survive. You will only see 3. If a 4th one is there, somebody will be gone within 5 years, right? So to say that they come and they outperform is utter nonsense and bullshit, because you're only looking at your small little sample size and your propagandist mentality to be able to see that. Because I can show you, I can take you to Atlanta, and because I don't know San Antonio well enough yet, but I can take you to Atlanta and show you tons of businesses that Asiatic people started and failed, that Africans started and failed, that black people started, black Americans started and failed, that white people started and failed. Now, if you don't realize that there's a certain group in America that got a 400-year head start, I can't help you if you can't even understand that or conceptualize it. But your thought process is way off base, basically. I would have hoped that after our conversation yesterday, you sat back and thought about it and said, you know what? Why are we fighting? I'm not rich. I'm assuming that you're not. I don't know. You might be. But most rich people don't think the way you think. Well, most rich people I've encountered and studied don't think the way you think. So I'm going to make the assumption that you're not rich. But you should have, but I would have thought you'd have went home and thought, you'd have been home and you thought like, hey, you know what? That's not the real enemy. The real enemy is the system that's in place that's designed to keep the overwhelming majority of the masses in a mid to lower income status so that they can maintain power over the people. So let us all get together. You know, white man of town, study the French Revolution. The French Revolution was only able to happen once the middle class and the poor French people realized that they need to come together and stop fighting each other, and they overthrew the monarchy. When they stopped caring about the fights amongst each other and focused on the real enemy, they were able to achieve a regime change, which then bettered the overall majority. America should be the wealthiest per capita country in the world. It's not the wealthiest per capita country in the world. There are other countries where the individual person's net worth is far greater than, the percentage is far greater than those in America. But America should be. They should be. He's still, this just shows he didn't go and research none of the stuff that I told him yesterday. You still think that a person with a low academics can get into a Harvard or a Colgate? What are you talking? This stupid. I'm not even gonna waste my time today. I'm not wasting my time today because exactly then, racists don't do research. They just got to stick with the same idiotic tropes. And here's the sad part. And I'm gonna be honest with you. And I hope you can take this as constructive criticism. The reason why you're projecting onto a misunderstanding and the misinformation concerning Black people, a propaganda statement towards Black people, the reason why you're projecting is because you fail and are failing in life. And instead of you taking accountability, you are deciding to project your failures and your failed personality to other people. So here's the real. Your life has been a failure because you are a failure. And so you project it to other people, but you don't have to be a failure. You can change your own life. If you are living paycheck to paycheck, that's your fault. And I'm gonna be a little bit disrespectful. And to the women on here, I apologize. Right? One of the main conversations that I have on my relationship channel is the fact that oftentimes, especially with these Gen Zers and millennials, they have no sense of accountability. The women have no sense of accountability. They can never say they're wrong. The man is always wrong. And they can't apologize because they're so self-centered and selfish that they can't do so. You sound like a fucking millennial or a Gen Z woman. Now, I'm not saying that all women are that way. My Gen X women, they take accountability. And there are some millennial and Gen Z women who take accountability. But you are like those multiple videos you can find where women can't say that they're wrong. Now I'm gonna stop going in that direction. But I grew up with no help. Wasn't getting welfare, food stamps. My parents worked. My grandparents worked. My aunts and uncles, they worked. I went to school. I studied. I passed the test. I went to the Marine Corps. I passed the test. I did the work. I got promoted based on my own abilities. Even when they tried to demote me, I fought against that shit and I still got promoted. Even when I was working for a Mississippi racist, I still got promoted. I opened businesses based on my own ability 99% of the time. It was only one time that I had an investor. Beyond that, it was all me. When I opened up my cigar lounge, I had 19 boxes on the shelf, and I only paid for 9, and I had a 30-day payment for the other 10. I built that shit myself. No help, nobody, just me, getting it done, 12 hours a day. The reason why I got out of debt in 1993 is because I controlled my budget. I stopped spending more money than I made. I took on extra jobs so that I can pay down the deficit. So the reason why your life is failing, the reason you live paycheck to paycheck, is because you are a failure. And the worst thing about it, it's one thing to fail society, but it's a whole nother tragedy when you fail yourself. And I don't know how old you are. I don't know if you have children. But if you are failing yourself, you are failing your children and creating another generation of failures. Overly privileged community, my ass. If Black America, let me tell you something, bro. Now I'm finna sound like the Hebrew Israelites. I'm gonna sound like the Hebrew Israelites. So I hope that my Hebrew Israelites are still on here. If black people had the privileges that you talking about, we'd be running this damn country. That is the reason why racism has to still maintain itself systematically. Because every goddamn thing that black people break through in, we supersede everybody else. Now, isn't that an interesting thing? When we broke through into engineering, we start superseding everybody else. When we broke through into IT, we start superseding everybody else. Every time we break through into something, we supersede everybody else. So if we had all the privileges that you claim, I have a brother. I don't do the stepbrothers and all that bullshit. I have a brother, lives up in Austin. I know how he grew up. I know he didn't grow up privileged, but he paid his way through college. And now he is one of the foremost IT engineers in this country. Just yesterday, flew back from Paris, where he was conducting a meeting that I can't tell you about in Paris. You can stop with your bullshit, dude. You're just a failure in life. And because you failed in life, you want to project your failure onto some other race. And then you want to utilize that as a reason why you failed. You failed because you are the failure. Now, let me read The Richest Man in Babylon. Read The Richest Man in Babylon. Study The Richest Man in Babylon. Implement the ideas of The Richest Man in Babylon. And within 3 years, your ass will not be living paycheck to paycheck. And maybe then you can let go of the racist propaganda that you fed into. Because then if you follow The Richest Man in Babylon, your ass won't be a failure. But you are a failure. So stop failing. Dumbass. You know, as I was saying, the reason that's why America should be per capita the richest country in the world. Should be. But it's stupid asses like that. Oh, what up, Rivers? Irrelevant advice without God. We can agree that the civil rights movement would better have been the civil rights. What the? That don't even make sense. That don't even make sense. And I guess the success of other countries that don't have your God was irrelevant. China didn't have your God. Incredibly successful country. And no, what the hell is the civil rights movement? Are you making up stuff? I'm not surprised. You making shit up. Yeah, I wasn't actually trying to reason with him. He is not gonna, I'm not like people like, oh, I just want to plant a seed. No, I'm just gonna tell you, dumbass, the truth. You either take it or you cannot. It's sad. Like, and I had to do that. Let me tell you, I had to do that. When I first went into the Marine Corps, I was surrounded by some people who were, ultra black power people, and they was like, the reason why the black man can't do this or can't do that, and the black man can't do this and can't do that is because of the white man. And I got sick of that bullshit. At first, I was like, yeah, the white man blocking us, the white man, the white man. But then I started realizing, fuck the white man. I'm gonna go do what I need to do to get what I want. And if that means that I gotta fight harder, if that means I gotta be better than somebody else, if I gotta be way better than somebody else, then hey, that's just what it is. Like when I won my meritorious mass, There were some assholes who was judging us, and I knew I had to be 100% better than the other guys because I knew how I was going to swing, and I was 100% better than the other guys because that's just the way it is. They had no choice but to give me that meritorious mass, which helps you get promoted. That's just the way it is. So even for those people, like I get people who will tell me something, you know, like, oh, you ain't gonna be like, we can talk about building a black community, and there'll be a black person who will come on here and they'll be like, oh, well, you know, they're gonna burn it down like they did Tulsa. They gonna flood it out like they did Lake Lanier. They gonna run the highway system like they did down in Miami and I think it's Overlook. You know what? This ain't 1927. Ain't nobody coming in and burning shit unless they get shot. You know what I'm saying? So no, no excuses. Nobody has any excuses for not creating the life that they desire. You don't have an excuse. So when people try to blame other people for their own poverty, that's your own fault. Civil rights, economic empowerment, independent study. See, here's the thing, Rivers. Here's the thing, Rivers. Although you have been consistently disrespectful towards me, without me being disrespectful towards you at any time, I have never called you out your name. I have never made any denigrating remarks towards you. The only thing I've ever replied to you with is that my name is not spelled L-O, it's spelled L-A. And instead of just respecting what my name is, now you want to start calling me Larry. Well, let me tell you something, you little sad sack of piece of shit, former Navy personnel motherfucker who came out of Goodwin, Alabama, some small ass little podunk ass town, and you found the one black family out of the little couple 10 black families that live in your community, and you dated her and married her because no other white woman would give you the time of day because you're a sorry bastard sitting up there with masks and shit on your face because you can't breathe, you sickly ass punk. I ain't the one that you want to continuously disrespect because I don't have the mentality to just let you sit there and keep disrespecting me. I'm not the one who will just block you. I'm the one who will fuck up the rest of your little life. All right. I have a petty bone in me that is real strong. And so if you want to continue, I will data mine the hell out of your life, make some phone calls and fuck all your little life up. And that little life that you're living in Baton Rouge, Louisiana right now will easily get fucked over. You understand? Now, I know you're going to take this and think that you've gotten under my skin and I'm angry and ooh and all this kind of stuff. It is not. This is just me telling you who I am. And I have no problems being who I am. I will feel no guilt. I will feel no shame for fucking up your little Baton Rouge life. And if you mess with me too much, I will fuck your marriage up. And you'll find yourself alone running back to your little home in Goodwin, Alabama. I'm not that guy. I've told people on here before, don't put me on a pedestal where I'm thinking that I'm all ooh and ah and all that shit. Nah, I ain't that guy. So I'm letting you know, bro. It's one thing to make your comments, you're against what we talk about here, that's fine. That's why I let you stay here. But if you can't, if you expect to be respected, you're going to give some respect. And if you keep on, and don't think that I'm an immediate person, I will slowly bleed your life. You will all of a sudden start having things happening in your life that seems to trickle it down. And you'll find yourself alone. That black wife you got, she'll be gone. Because that was the only woman you can get. That sickness that you're going through, that you're dealing with, it'll get worse. Your economics, all of a sudden, your money started looking a little funny. Your credit started getting messed up. Your identity starts getting plastered out throughout the world where other people who violate that will take advantage of it. I ain't that kind of guy. Now, I try not to go into that part of my life anymore. But you don't really know who you're dealing with, bro. But just keep on. You just keep on. Just because I live a pedestrian life don't mean that I have pedestrian abilities. Because you will fuck around and find out. Because no man names me. No man identifies me. I am my own identification. And if you cannot respect that, I will fuck over your life very easily and very clearly. Now, if that causes some of the people who follow this channel to think that I am not worthy to listen to the information that I talk about, that's fine. I told y'all not, don't put me on a pedestal. And my pettiness, I have no problems with it. So, and yes, I will take things to levels of extremes. I am the type of person that if you punch me in the eye, I'm gonna blind you. I don't believe in equal return of energy. I will amass as much fucking reflection of energy as possible. There is no equal and opposite return. You know, people don't know who they mess with until they mess with them. That's why I don't mess with people. You know how they tell you, like, when you're going down the street and somebody cut you off and you want to roll up to them and give them the finger and yell and scream? Don't do that. I tell my kids, I tell my wife, I tell everybody, anybody, don't do that. You don't know that person. Next thing you know, I forgot the movie. Next thing you know, that person is hunting you down and shooting you. Or they pulling their gun out right then and they shooting you. That's how road rage be happening. Somebody cut somebody off, then somebody cuts them out, and then they shoot them. You don't know that person. Let them be. They cut you off. Man, I'm glad I ain't in that much of a hurry. We all right. Control your emotions. Don't mess with people. Leave people be. And I am one that you should not mess with. See? And now I'm gonna have to respond to my wife because she's gonna be like, you can't be doing that. But I'm just not that guy. Yeah, I am. Yes, I have no problems with that. And I'll say this on here, yes. But you will never be able to prove that I did anything. That's the beauty of it all. Now, y'all said, he said, bring it, right? And I knew you would take this as, oh, you're being weak and you're always being, oh. But you want to call me Larry again. Okay. All right. Okay. All right, Rivers. Yes, indeed. Okay, Rivers. We're going to have a good time tonight with Rivers. I'm sorry. Give me a second. Just a second. Just a moment. I just need to send some information somewhere over the rainbow. Okay. No time like the president to get a process started. What we say? I know everyone got a plan to say get punched in the face. I remember this guy when we was doing the smokers on. I was on the USS Nashville, And this dude, I mean, he was Superman practicing, hitting the heavy bag like a champ. So that dude got hit one time, everything went out the door. He was just flailing. Yeah, Russell Crowe, Unhinged. That was an interesting movie. That's because my oldest daughter, she ain't my oldest no more, but because now I got two other daughters. But number three, she used to have some serious road rage when people cut her off, and I was like, "Girl, you didn't stop all that. You don't know these people." Coach won't. I'm from town because I mean, you know what's funny to me? The people who come on here like White Man from Town and D'Angelo and James, you know what they don't realize is, or they maybe they realize it, but they help the algorithm to go. They create the situation that um, makes the information get spread out to more people. You know, I wouldn't go onto a Christian page and talk on that Christian page because all I'm doing is helping that page to grow. So no, but you know, Forrest Gump, stupid is as stupid does. Yeah, but people are dumb like that. I let them be dumb. Sorry, I had to reply to somebody real quick. Send them some more get started information. I had to send them some more get started. Oh yeah, wait a minute. Well, I tell you, filters and makeup is something special. Distribution. Did you remove my comment? No, I don't remove anybody's comments. Uh, Now, I know certain words might be blocked, but I didn't block. I don't block them. I didn't set up any blocks. So try to send your comment again. That is what is this comment? Yeah, but try to send your comment again. Amazing. I would have never survived everything I survived. I know it. I gotta let y'all read that. Uh, uh, survived through war because I was a personnel clerk on the USS Lexington. I was a secretary on a Navy ship, and I survived through a war that I never actually saw any combat. Oh man, I hate these military people. Some of these military people kill me. You know, like it's like 3% of all military personnel actually ever see combat. But a person will be like, I survived. I served in Desert Storm. What did you do during Desert Storm? I mean, you served from 1987 to 1990, which is just a 3-year commitment in the Navy, USS Lexington, as a personnel clerk, meaning that you were a fucking secretary in the Navy. You processed papers. You sat at a desk for the USS Lexington. You didn't fight no war, dude. You weren't on the ground. You didn't have no planes coming at you trying to blow you up. No missiles coming at you. I survived through war. That is I always find it a disgrace when military people, and I'm a Marine, you know, but I always find it interesting when people are like, oh yeah, I was in Desert Storm, and motherfucker, you ain't do no research, no combat. You know how few people dealt with any combat in Desert Storm? Very few people dealt with any levels of combat in Desert Storm. You know, that's like, you know, them Air Force dudes, man. Them Air Force dudes be sitting way back. Oh, I'm in Sicily. How are you in Sicily, and you get to claim you fought in Desert Storm? Your ass was in Sicily processing, you know, equipment going through and refueling planes. No. And I understand how that worked. That's why when my son went to the Air Force, I made sure that he got a job that would keep him as far away from actual combat as possible. Because I don't want my son going to combat. Fuck that. We ain't doing that. I already did it for you. We're not doing that. I survived war. Okay, anyway. I'm about to, shit, y'all done got 3 hours out of me. Y'all done got 3 hours. Let me check a few, see if I can't send it, it gets deleted. Then that's something about you, that's not me. If your stuff is getting deleted. What do you think about FBA from T? I don't know what FBA is. I do understand the Pan-Africanism movement. I think that is something that we should, whether you believe in the we are already here or all that nonsense, it don't matter. In today's world, if Black people in America don't have a support system like the Latin community or the Asian community, where they have a country that is somewhat behind them. And if we don't participate in the Pan-African movement, then just like Africa has already been subject to colonization, it'll be a new form of colonization through corporations. So I think we do have to participate in that if we want to alleviate the world idea of power and have to make that change. So I'm all for Pan-Africanism. As far as fighting for reparations, it ain't gonna ever happen, but you can fight for it. I just don't think it's gonna ever happen. We have gotten too far removed from it. And in all honesty, if I was a president, I would go ahead and do it. And this is gonna sound horrible. I know this is going to sound horrible, but if you took every black person who you can look through the genealogy paperwork and see that, okay, I can look at Coach Renz. I see this is his father, this is his mother. I can look through both of his lines and I can get to slavery, enslavement in America. All right, I'm gonna give him $5 million or $1 million, $1 million. And if you could do that with probably it was supposed to be like 46 million black people in America, you could probably do that with, let's say, half. 23 million black people in America get $1 million. Unfortunately, the overwhelming majority of those people are going to lose that money within 5 years. Within 5 years, they'll be back to where they started. Whatever houses and shit they buy and cars they buy, they'll eventually lose most of it. Most of the money will get spent on businesses that are not going to build the black community. The black economic structure will be relatively the same. It might inch up by maybe 10%, but because there will be a percentage of people who will use the money wisely. But the overwhelming majority, because the lack of financial education, are going to become spenders and not investors, and they're not going to build their communities. So if I was a president, I would do it, and then you can't say shit no more. But the money just going to rotate right back to the power structure that's already there. That's why if I was president and I was doing it, I wouldn't do it without first giving financial education first, and you having to pass this basic financial test, and then you can get it. Because then we would have a higher percentage of people who will buy houses that are within their means to maintain. They will invest in things that will provide them long-term economic empowerment. So yeah, that's the only way I would do it. This dude must be really scared. You must be really terrified that you keep on coming in here talking about how you don't have a spirit of fear. That is something a person who is afraid does. A person who's not afraid, a person who's not fearful, doesn't have to continuously restate that they are not fearful. I see you didn't, yeah, oh, you know, you was a paper pusher in the Navy, that's why. I see. And you was that one little kid that's probably getting beat up in Alabama, and that's why you married your black wife, because, you know, you were ostracized by your own white community. And then that's probably why y'all ended up in Baton Rouge. Because a person who is not fearful doesn't have to keep coming back stating that. So appreciate you for giving me more insight into your mentality. Thanks, appreciate it. Yeah. Oh yeah, he's in Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge, Louisiana. FBA is an Amazon program. What does it do though? I don't know a lot about Amazon. All I know is that I do want to get some of them Amazon, but I thought about getting some of those Amazon blocks, you know, that they, because I wanted to show people how to take one of those Amazon blocks and then resell it for the people who was on my the financial program. Wilford, don't do nothing, Wilford. I'll talk to you later. later. We'll have a conversation. Nah, I'm just playing. I'm just playing. I'm just joking. Them just jokes. Them just jokes. Just jokes. Y'all are horrible, I must say. Y'all are some terrible, terrible. That's just terrible. Him and my ex-wife can have a Bible study. I don't know. His wife may not approve of that. You know what I mean? Because she's a holy roller too. So they're both holy rollers. So they may not approve of that. You just assume God can't die. You might be talking to somebody else. So Boondock said the question is, your ex, I'm assuming that she's close to the Baton Rouge, probably is why he said that. That would be the logical thought process on that. I'm sorry. What's your favorite film franchise? So you said film franchise, not favorite film itself. So a franchise would mean 1, 2, 3 movies or more. No, that's not part of a franchise. Sadly to say, as far as the franchise of movies, the first thing comes to my mind is the whole Marvel first and second phase. But now, because I love say like Casino and Goodfellas and A Bronx Tale, but those are not a franchise. But I love those movies more so than I like the Marvel movies, but those aren't franchise. Right? So that's I'm gonna have to go with that. Yeah, I remember when you said that your wife had left you for Jesus. They might, but of course that would interfere with his relationship with his wife. Oh, we got another person who just only got something to say about what I do. Then obviously you don't watch enough of my videos. Uh, Now I smoke a cigar, and so what? I, and here's the thing, like, and I don't care. I could care less. What does that mean? So, like, I'm finished like, oh, Oh, oh my goodness. Oh. And this cigars for when I make my other videos after I finish this. Oh, he said something about my hats and cigars. Woe is me. What does it take to call yourself a doctor? It's just a question I'm throwing out there, just out of nowhere. What does it take to call yourself a doctor? Don't you have to obtain a PhD in something to call yourself a doctor, or go to med school or something? Okay, I'm gonna stop. Let me get off here. Hey, you know what? It's time to go because I got work to do. I got some work to do. I got some work to do. I got a proposal that I got to get started on and have done by Friday. So, because white man of town said I need to go start a business. So let me shuffle on this after this sabbatical that we've taken and restart another business. Got to do what the white man from town said. But anyway, I got a business to take. I got things to do. But yeah, so I will be producing some more videos that'll go out today. Of course, we only have lives are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at 12 noon every day. You're welcome, BB2. So remember, we're having our meet and greet here in San Antonio, October 31st through November 2nd. We're just gonna have a good time. We're gonna have some conversation. Oh yeah, I forgot. Old boy told me I got to start with the food. The food is you get a free breakfast, free snacks, and a free dinner at the hotel that is linked in the description of the video. So make sure y'all reserve your rooms today. And I look forward to our next live on Monday. So y'all have a wonderful day. Continue to share the videos. That's the other way, other than the detractors coming on here and making their comments. Like, share, and subscribe is the way that the channel keeps growing, our community keeps growing. So I look forward to seeing you guys next Monday at 12 noon. And I'm not going to do anything to Rivers. So for anyone listening from the government sources, I am stating right now that I will not participate in any type of undoing of anyone's life or harm in any form or format. That was just emotional outburst and simply just that. Nothing more, nothing less. I have now regained myself. And so there will be no outcome of vengeance taking out on anyone. If anything were to happen in his life, it is purely coincidental. And I have taken no parts in damaging anyone's life. So y'all have a great day, and always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.